Well, welcome to the first episode. Oh, dang it. I forgot to do something. Hold on. First episode, yeah, things happen. You got to try things out. You got to do things over again. Okay. Welcome to the first episode of the Suburban Pilgrims podcast, something that's been a long time coming. Today's episode, the first episode, I'm going to talk over some things that are going to blow your mind. The first thing is a little bit about me. And I think that's very important. And I think that's really what you came here for. That's going to be a short time. Really, what I'm going to be going over is four topics that I think are going to blow your mind. The first is why kids need less to be better. Brilliance. The second is why this generation should be given a break. I think that's true. And I think you'll agree with me by the end. Maybe. I don't know who you are. The third, why men being selfish is actually good. Again, well, this one I'm curious. By the way, I'm streaming this recording of this first podcast live and on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that millions of people follow, maybe billions. I haven't checked today. It could be billions, but so many people. And so if you'd like to watch this live, if you're like, man, I'd like to see more of this guy, you can. You can go over to Suburban Pilgrims on YouTube and watch it there. It won't be live anymore, but you can watch the video. It's going to be just brilliant. And then I'm going to be, I think, assuming this. I was going to say, I'm curious to know what you guys think who are going to be watching this live. I just had an issue where I had to restart the live stream because I'm having technical issues. It still might be, actually, as I look at this. I don't know if anything's working. So I don't know. Is the microphone working? What is happening right now? If it doesn't work this time, I'm going to try one more time on my phone. And that's just going to be the end of it. All right. I'm typing. Is it working? And we'll see. I have 22 million people watching this right now live. So I'm assuming somebody will comment and let me know if the microphone's working. It doesn't seem to be. So that's fun. Probably not. Good Lord. This is going real well. Okay, man. I'm sick, by the way. All right, it's working. Well, let's start again for the 18th time. That's what happens when you try something new. And I tried to keep it uncomplicated too, but that's life. Oh, well. All right. I'm going to have to edit the heck out of this audio podcast. That's perfectly fine. Those 33 million of you watching right now get to see the behind the scenes, and that's pretty exciting. So let me jump back into my notes and the actual podcast itself. So I'm excited to hear from those of you who are watching this live as I go through these topics, what your thoughts are. Kind of interact live and see what you think. The last segment that I'm planning to make a reoccurring thing, assuming people like it, is I've been reading a lot of books lately. And so I'm planning to go through some of the books I've been reading and either currently reading or have read because I mark the heck out of them. So I'm planning to take some segments of the book that stood out to me and just read some pages, chat it through, see what you guys think. Today, I'm going to be reading from this book, which you can't see if you're listening to the podcast, but you can see if you're live. And this book has a naughty word in it, which I'm going to read. So just watch your kids. It's pretty graphic. The book is called How to Make Shit Happen. And so I'm going to be reading a section of this that I'm calling possibly a little reoccurring segment from this book for the next, I don't know, week or so on how to make more money for your family today. And then I want to end with just some chit chat, talk to some people because this is a really big deal. First podcast. So let me begin, assuming that everything works and is working okay, with a little bit of my backstory. Now, if you're one of this, like I said, probably billions of people who watch the YouTube channel Suburban Pilgrims, you know all of this because, I have fans out the yin yang. It's a lot to handle. But in reality, the one of you who watches the videos knows this. So, little backstory. I've done some podcasts in the past. This is the first one in a long time I've done by myself, though. And it's been a long time coming. It's one I've wanted to do for a long time. I've currently, in the last probably month or so, I've changed up the content on the channel and have gone a completely different direction. I wouldn't say completely different, but a different direction, a direction that I know a lot of people probably don't really like, and I know YouTube hates. And so it's going to be interesting as I push through this. But what I'm trying to do is expand what I'm doing, bring what I'm trying to do onto other platforms as I try to build YouTube and build, a following into what I'm doing, I'm trying to reach out. So the podcast is one way to do that. So I'm also trying to push some other social media platforms, specifically Instagram and TikTok. So I'm working to build those as well. So if you like either of those or use any of those platforms, you can follow me there as well. Suburban Pilgrims. It's all about me, really. I mean, it is. It's literally I'm filming myself, I'm recording myself, I'm putting myself out there as many ways as I can. You can't really get more full of yourself than that. So that's pretty exciting. I'm gonna jump in. I keep looking for my phone, but I've got to leave my phone there. Oh, by the way, that was the other thing I wanted to point out. If you are watching this right now, either right now live or down the road, and you're not listening to this on the podcast, I want to talk about the background here. Because I know if you're watching this, you're like, dang, where is that guy? It's beautiful, and I want to be there. I am in a trailer in Tennessee. My family and a little backstory. I have 3 kids, wife and 3 kids. And we moved from California, which is where we were all born and raised. I mean, my wife and I and our kids, we lived there our entire lives up until about a year ago when we started to slowly transition into the property we bought out here in Tennessee. And it's it's a long process, and you can actually watch part of this. I started another channel called Blackburn that follows a little bit of the construction and the process of rebuilding. We have a 200-year-old farmhouse, tobacco farmhouse that we're restoring, rebuilding, new construction. We're doing all kinds of stuff to it. So in the meantime, while we're finishing that up, I'm in a trailer. This is kind of my temporary office space in this little trailer. And so eventually, once we get into the house, it's going to be pretty dang good. A little bit better in every way than this. But I did want to point out these right here. If you're listening to this, I'm pointing to, excuse me, I am a little sick right now. Pointing to some boots that I have behind me. They are my boots, and they are there for anyone who's new watching this. It's just proof that, oh yeah, this guy's seriously rugged. He's got boots behind him, and you really can't get any more legitimate than that. So let's dive in to some goodness. So, first little thing I wanted to chat about. And these are all video ideas. I'm not really sure what the podcast format's going to be down the road. I'm going to just try some things out. But I have a running list of like topics for videos I want to put out on YouTube. And so I just took some of those that were like decent ideas, might be, videos down the road, and just thought, well, I could try them out with the podcast. You guys are all basically test dummies. So the first one is why kids need to I can't even read. I'm tired. I mean, it's only 8:30 here, and I typically let me back up. I will eventually get to this note, but I also wanted to point out that I started doing these live streams like maybe a month ago, and I was doing them in the middle of the day on Tuesdays. And my daughter actually suggested I did them in the evening because more people are probably likely to watch. Although this is the second live stream I've started just tonight because I've screwed up quite a bit. So it just feels very tiring. I'm exhausted. I've done nothing today, really, but I'm still tired. That's just my excuse. I just really can't read. Okay, why kids need less to be better. So here's my thoughts on this. And you tell me if you're watching live, let me know in the comments if you agree with this or what your thoughts are as I chat through this. We can kind of make this a conversation, assuming I like what you say. I'm going to filter everything. So I have noticed, even in my childhood, and I was born in 1982. So I was born in 2 different worlds, as many people were. I was born in the world before internet and computers were in every household and phones, and back when childhood was somewhat, at least resembled any time in the past. I mean, it kind of resembled. Technology hadn't changed so much that the world I grew in wasn't that drastically different from a kid who grew up in the 60s or even the 50s or the 40s. I mean, some things had changed, but you still are kind of like, it's somewhat a similar world. When I grew up through the transition to today, where the world that we live in today is so drastically different from my childhood that, it's another world altogether. And one of the things that has changed so dramatically, you might attest to, especially if you have kids, is that so much has been given, or at least is available to kids today. A kid today has almost everything. Everything? That's just how I said it. And I liked it. Everything available to them at their fingertips. Literally, the world of information is available. That just doesn't even seem like anything today. You tell kids today, you don't know how good you have it, that you can look up anything. Information's available to you for free any time of the day, and kids are just like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you grew up without that, you realize how incredible that is. And then you tap into all of like the the sickness, when you listen to somebody cough on a podcast and you're just like, yeah, what the heck was that? I don't know. Podcast in general, though, good Lord. I mean, I don't need to go on and on. I could, but I don't need to go on and on about what's available to kids today in the Western world, at least, where technology runs rampant. The world is at their fingertips. And yet, the thing I've noticed is kids today, and this is legitimately true. This isn't just kids have gotten softer. That is a part of it. But in general, kids today are unhappy. They're overly privileged. They're lazy. I don't mean to beat up on kids because the next segment I'm going to build kids up. But in general, you've just noticed that kids aren't happy. They don't understand. They have the world and yet don't seem to appreciate it. They don't appreciate anything. They just so I would assume you get what I'm saying. Also, there's some comments popping up live that you don't need to know about that aren't probably good. How do I tell it? Hold on a sec. I'm just gonna say hide user on this channel. I don't know if that'll do anything, but whatever. So this is my thought on this, and I got to pull my notes up again because I am noticing this is the first time I've done a podcast where I'm like actually streaming live and there's like chat. Not that anything's happening in the chat because there's literally nobody watching, but still, it's a little confusing. So my brain is just going all over the place. That was the other thing I wanted to point out is that the dopamine levels that kids experience today are through the roof, literally hitting dopamine like limits, the ceiling of dopamine. They're just hitting it. And that's part of the reason they're just not happy. There's just so much going through their mind, so much that raises their dopamine. Anyway, so I think about kids in the old days, myself even, growing up in the early 80s. Well, being born in the early 80s. I'm not that old, okay? And kids prior to that. You talk to older people, you talk to like my parents and my grandparents or whatever, older people, they speak very fondly of their childhood. And maybe it's just, they look back on their life and they don't see it for what it really was. And certainly there was difficulties in the past and difficulties that kids don't necessarily have today or not in the same way. But in general, I would wager a bet. The kids in general were more happy isn't really the right word, but in general, they were more satisfied. They didn't have as many issues as kids today. You look at other kids outside of our country, in third world countries, where you would look at them and you think, dang, those poor kids, they don't have anything. I used to work in San Diego, I lived in San Diego with my family, worked in Tijuana is what I was going to say. And going over to Mexico, that was the first time I'd been outside of the country, is some of the work I did in Tijuana. And going over there, it is like shocking. It's so weird that you cross the border and you're in this drastically different world. There's kids living in conditions and doing things that you're just like, oh my gosh, our kids don't know how good they have it. How many times have you said that to your kids? How many times have I said that or heard other people say that? Kids today don't know how good they have it. In reality, they don't seem like they have it that good. Because you look at these other kids, you watch these shows of children in Africa or wherever, some country where you think, man, those poor kids, and you see them kicking a soccer ball or something, and that's all they have, and they're just poor. They don't even have shoes on. But dang, those kids, I mean, I don't know what it's like. I'm not saying that I wish my kids lived in those conditions. They have enough, there's difficulty that comes with that. But what I'm saying is that those kids look pretty stinking happy. They're really smiling a lot. They don't seem like they realize how bad they have it. And then I look at kids in the US who seem to have the world, especially today. They don't seem like that. They seem pretty depressed. Seem like they're having a lot of issues. Anyway, so my thought with this, and let me know if you think this is true in the comments. I think that there might be something to, of course there is, this seems obvious, pulling back on what kids have access to, pulling back on what they're doing. Really, it's kind of a reevaluation of our lifestyle in general, because this is true for kids and it's true for adults too. I've noticed in my own life, as more and more has happened that seems good, the more difficult it seems. I look back to the old days and I think, man, that was probably the time I'd like to live, is back when things were simpler, back when things didn't seem so complicated, but really, it's just having less seems to make things clearer, simpler, and in general, better. My family and I, in 2015, we were living in San Diego and had a lot. I mean, we weren't rich or anything, but you look at us compared to the rest of the world, we had a lot. We were living just fine. We decided to, like a lot of families today, sell everything we owned. We bought a little travel trailer, and we hit the road. We left everything. We've traveled around the country for almost 4 years full time, and there's good and bad. I'm not going to paint a picture that it was the greatest time in the world, but there was something about pulling back from the complexities and just the stuff of life that made things so much truly simpler, and because of that, better. It's just a weird cycle though, because we've gotten out of that. We're now like building a house, and we're doing a lot, and we have a lot. You know what I mean? Again, not rich, but we have a lot, and it just gets more and more difficult. Anyways, I could talk the entire podcast about this, and I don't know where it would go, but what are your thoughts? I'm curious in the comments. There's literally one of you, basically. There's a lot of people here. For those of you listening to on the podcast and aren't watching the video, there's 90 million people watching the stream. Do you appreciate my constant coughing? I hope you do, because it's not going away. Okay, Tommy the Train. Dang, I don't know what that. I think I like that name. Tommy the Train said, "Simpler means you consume as much, including your mind of BS." What? I don't understand that. Oh, meaning. Okay. Simpler means you consume as much. Okay, you gotta say the whole thing again. I'm stupid. I can't read things. I don't understand things. Anyways, what are some things? Walt Longmire said, "What are some things today you are seeing that indicate? Oh, I'm assuming that's indicate the larger issues ahead for men." Oh gosh, don't put me on the spot like I know anything. What are some things today you are seeing that indicate the larger issues ahead for men? Well, I talk a lot about that on some of the videos that I posted recently on my YouTube channel about, just where I think some of the issues are with men. And I think in general, it's just, everybody quotes that quote to me that every man knows, or most men about, oh gosh, I can't even think of it right now. Easy. Somebody put it in the comments. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hard times make strong men. Easy times make weak men. You know that quote. Anyways, of course you do. I think it's 100% true. I think the decline of men that we're seeing, and this isn't part of my topic here. This isn't part of my notes, but it is something I'm super passionate about, because it's something I've seen in myself and in so many men today, is that men are weak, super, super weak and soft and timid and fat and lazy. And it's a total decline. And I think the decline of men means the decline of the family, and it means the decline of our country. It might sound extreme, but if you think about it, I believe it's totally true. I think it's a very, very dangerous trend, scary trend. And I think it's the core issue of so many of the problems that we're seeing in our society and our culture today, which is why I'm so passionate about it. And because I truly did and have seen it in myself. I'm working to try to change myself, but it's not easy. Oh my gosh. I'm realizing right now that talking a lot is not good for my throat when my throat isn't feeling so good. One moment, please. Okay. Anyways, I can keep going on that. Sorry, I'm reading comments. If you're listening to this and you hear just me not saying anything, it's because I'm reading the live comments. Pretty interesting. Tommy the Train said this again, because I'm an idiot. He said, "Simpler meaning you don't consume as much, including garbage that's being thrown at us." Oh, it's day to day. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I guess we are the weak ones in this analogy. Yeah, I mean, most of us, I think so. I mean, maybe not all men for sure, but I'm definitely in that boat. I'm trying to change that about myself. But yeah, I do feel like because we have so much done for us, I mean, that's part of the problem too. One of the things that made us leave San Diego, at least for me, was a big issue. And one of the issues I had with suburbia in general was that everything was done for me. I mean, you have Target down the street, you have Starbucks, you have your work right there, you have your entire life is there, and it's done for you. So if anything happened to make that all go away, I couldn't do anything on my own. I mean, that's why I realized like the self-reliance that I think is important for people in general is completely gone. Was gone for me. How in the world am I going to keep this going when I cough every 30 seconds? I don't know, but I'm going to try my best. Anyways, I got off topic there a little bit, but I think what you're seeing in kids is you're seeing that in me. Well, let me say that again because that didn't make any sense. The trend that you're seeing in kids being less happy, less satisfied with everything, just in general, more reliant on outside stimulation to make them quote happy. Um, you're seeing that more and more, but you can see that in myself. I mean, I think I was probably I don't know. I don't know when that started exactly. Probably after World War II. Who cares? Where's this topic going? It could go on and on, couldn't it? I need to keep on topic, but in general, I saw it myself. I saw the decline of from what a man used to be or stood for, what a man's responsibility was, and I saw that decline into where I was as a man in general, and I just wasn't happy with that. It kind of hit me upside the head slowly over years. I kind of became more and more aware of the way I was and the way I wanted to be. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I do. I could keep going, but I got to keep this on track. That's the thing that I'm attempting to do as I convert these live streams into this podcast, trying to keep on topic. So, speaking of the next topic, that's called a segue. And that means I'm a professional. Why this generation should be given a break. So, in kind of contrast to a little spiel I just did about how kids are today, this is, I think, equally as true. Let me know again in the comments if you agree with this. But if you look back as far back as you want to go, really, in recorded history, let's say, I mean, let's go back 500 years. I don't know much about 500 years ago. Let's just go with American history because I know a bit more about that than I do 500 years ago. If you look back at early colony days of the US, the way that people lived, it was pretty much, farming, working the land. You went out, you hunted your food, you brought it home, you were trying to build a life for yourself with nothing, no resources. You pretty much relied on yourself. But most people in general were farmers. I mean, to some extent, they knew how to work the land. They were coming here to settle the land and work it. That trend kept going for generations up until not that long ago. My point here is that people from generation to generation basically lived the same way. Like grandfather in 1776. Man, apologies. That is just going to happen the entire time. Grandfather in 1776, for the most part, lived generally the same life as his great grandson. Maybe technology had changed a little bit. And I'm sure the grandfather had a lot to complain about the newest generation back then. But for the most part, life looked pretty much the same. That trend continued up until maybe the mid 1800s when things started to change, Industrial Revolution and all of that. But even through that time, progress changed very slowly. So from one generation to the next, you didn't see a lot of changes. The life your kid lived was pretty similar to the life you lived, and that kept going up until, I would argue, my generation. I think my generation, kids who were born in the 80s, is when that really shifted. Because the life that I grew up with, the world that I grew up in, is nothing like the life my kids are growing up in. Drastically different. No comparison. And then you compare that and contrast that to today, kids being born today. The world that the kids are going to grow up in today is so far removed from the world I grew up in. You can't even, it would blow people's minds because the world is changing so fast. Technology is changing so fast. So this truly is, let me know if you think this is true or not. But I think the generation of today is truly living in a world that we can't understand. They're dealing with issues that we can't understand. I think kids in the old days used to say that, you don't understand me, dad or mom or whatever. And the parents would just kind of look at each other like, yeah, we could understand you, Joe. We were kids once too, And that's true up until this newest generation. Kids can literally say that today. You don't understand. My gosh, my throat just doesn't want this to happen. But kids can say that today. You don't understand me. And while parents can understand being a kid at its core, parents today cannot understand what that means being a kid in today's world. And for that reason, I think that as parents, we do need to have an extra bit of understanding, or at least compassion, or try to understand, try to put ourselves into kids' perspective today. We're dealing with the world as adults, myself, that I cannot even, I don't understand. Things are changing so fast. I work in the world of technology. I work around computers. I use computers to make a living, and they're changing so fast. Not just computers, but the way you use them, how you interact with the world, so fast. I can't keep up. And I feel like that goes for beyond just technology. The way that technology has reshaped our world, I can't keep up with it. And I'm part of the generation that saw the change. I saw the way the world was prior to this, and I've watched it through the entire time. So you would think I would understand the best because I was aware of it. I could learn it the entire time. These kids today, they're just being dumped into this new world, and they have no concept of the world of the past, because the world of the past is gone. Which is brings up two important points, I think. One is that it's important to hold strong to some of the core values, and some of the learnings, some of the stuff that took 1,000 years to glean, is important to bring to the current generation. But it's very hard to show them the value of the way things were done before, because it seems so antiquated, so old fashioned. Do you remember as a kid having your grandpa or even your dad tell you about the good old days? And it seemed like so long ago, and it seemed like such a different world to you then, that you were like, "Pff, my dad doesn't get me today." But like I said, the world that you grew up in, if you were born prior to the 80s, prior to the 70s, somewhere in there, your world was pretty similar to your dad's. Things hadn't changed that much. And we still looked to our grandparents or our parents even as like old fashioned. They don't get me today. Put yourself in the world of kids today. We literally don't get them. We literally, you know what I mean? So when kids say you don't understand me, it's true to a certain extent. Anyways, I think it's interesting, and I think it's at least something to be aware of in general. The point of all of this is that I think there is there is something in my throat that's driving me crazy, and I'm going to keep commenting on it every time I cough, because I think you need to be reminded of it. I think in general, though, there's something that can be learned from this, from both sides. Our world, our country, as you may or may not know, is pretty dang split. There's basically two mindsets. There's the left and the right, and there's really no middle anymore. I mean, there is, but you don't hear from those people. And the left and the right doesn't care about those people. All we care about is the other side. I think, let me know what you think. I think there is some wisdom in that. And that as we look at kids today and the drastically different world they're growing up in, it's important to have a little compassion, some understanding, try to learn from them a little bit, try to not just like beat them down with your ideas from the old days. And I think that's true for us in general. I've seen myself move to a position, a political position that I won't really talk about, but that's I would have seen as extreme not that long ago, pretty extreme. And the culture today has kind of pushed people into that, and I think there's pros to that. I think there's a lot of good to be gained from that. But in general, I do think it's probably a good idea to take a moment, take a breath, and realize that people, even if they have drastically different views than your own, it doesn't mean we can't learn something from each other. Doesn't mean we can't be open to hear their thoughts. And I think that's something that more and more I've found in myself. I've become more closed-minded, I guess. As I've become more strong in my views of the world, I've become more closed off to anybody who has a differing view than mine. And I think in general, that doesn't lead anywhere good. What do you think about that? I wanted to bring that up and was curious what people thought about that. I guess I could read the comments right now because, they're here. I don't think anybody's commented on that yet, though. So why read it? I'm going to read the most recent comment. We'll see what this is. This is from U Truck Wreck, maybe. Probably reading that wrong. When we see what is new becomes the beginning for us, and the past is lost. I must have I read that so wrong. When we see what is new, when we see what is new becomes the beginning for us, and the past is lost. I know, man. I'm so bad at reading things. Like I know you listening to this are probably like, no, you're reading it wrong. I get what he's trying to say. Sorry, I can't read things well at all, apparently. Which means I should just read more of my notes, because that's probably what you want to hear. These are bots. Oh, Curtin Mills said these are bots. What are bots? I don't know. I'm not. I don't. I'm confused. I don't know. By the way, I started this stream over because I screwed up the first one. So this one's going to be a little short. I'm going till 9 o'clock because I'm going back to the family. Okay. So it's going to be a little shorter. Let me move on here. Next little topic I have here that I think is pretty good. Curious. This one, I don't know about this one. This is my own personal theory that I want to share with you. I want to see what you think. I shared this theory with my wife, and she was like, "You're stupid. That doesn't." No, she didn't say that. Oh, she probably did, because it's true. But she did not agree. She thought I was wrong. I'm curious to know what you think. So get your fingers ready and your thoughts ready. I really want to know what you think. Let me set up this premise for you. I believe that deep down, if we're honest with ourselves, and not even honest, if you really look at and follow what I'm going to say here, I think everything that everybody does is selfish. That's it. I'm going to explain it a little bit more. And I think that the selfishness is actually good. So let me explain it this way. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I adore them. I love them in a way that love doesn't. You know what I mean? Like you just have this love for your kids and your wife, where if anything happened to them, it would destroy you, right? Like you can't even describe that to somebody who doesn't have kids. Probably, I think it's a different kind of love. Anyways, but everybody loves somebody to the point where if something happened to them, it would destroy you. So I think that the reason we love our kids so much, just to use kids as an example, is selfish because I can't handle my kids dying because it would hurt me so bad. So, like when we say things like, man, I would sacrifice myself for my kids, like, of course we would, but we would do that out of selfishness. You follow what I'm saying? I can't deal with the pain of losing my kids, so I'd rather kill myself. I'd rather myself die than to deal with losing one of my kids. This is kind of a dark topic. I just realized. That's just this best example I can use. That applies for everything, though. I think anything we do, the reason we give to charitable causes is because it makes us feel good. The reason people do selfless acts is because I think at the core, it goes back to themselves. They feel like they have to do that. It's in them. You can use that for anything, I think. Any example. I'm trying to think of other examples. Anything we do. People who do things who are deemed, I'm not talking about military. Military, probably, I don't know. That can get a little confusing. But anybody who like works in, I used to work for nonprofits. So somebody who starts a nonprofit and people who support and give their time and energy to a nonprofit, let's say, I don't know, helping the poor or something. I think in the end, they're doing it for themselves. Does this sound terrible? It did to my wife, but do you follow me? Because I think even in the selfless act, you're doing it because there's something in you that makes you want to do it. There's a desire there for whatever reason. If you talk to that person and got down to the core reason, well, this is why it comes back because it's you. You have to do it because you feel better about yourself. Or you feel better about whatever. I don't think it's a bad thing, though. I don't know if it's true. It's just my idea. I think, though, if it is true, I think there's something important to accepting our selfishness because I think that there's this idea that selfishness is so bad, and it can be. It can be. It's confusing. I understand. I haven't thought this through very well. It's just something that I've thought about for a long time, and I keep seeing examples of it. Anytime I see somebody doing something, anything really, I'm like, yeah, it's for yourself. It's self-serving. Everything is self-serving in the end. And if we just kind of accept that and realize that, I think we can actually probably be better and serve people better. Okay, interesting. I want to read people's comments on this if anyone said anything. You seem to have a lot on your mind. Igor the Terrible said that. I always have a lot on my mind. It's just nothing clear or helpful to anybody, but I still get it out through you. Tommy the Train said, do you, oh no, gosh, I can't, I'm telling you, I can't read. Do look up Ted Kaczynski. Is that how you say that? That can't be right. Oh yeah, Unabomber Manifesto. Really? Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Mason Reeves said you should read Governor Lee's book. Then I credibility. What? What is that? Then, and then there's a muscle symbol. Is it I or one? I credibility power? Powerful? My gosh. What is wrong? I generally can't read. I read fine. But I don't know what's happening tonight. I don't have my glasses on, if you notice that. But that's not the real issue, is it? That's what it is. He spelt it wrong, okay? Put the wrong word in. It wasn't me. Incredibly powerful. Okay, Governor Lee's book, incredibly powerful. I see, I figured it out. It wasn't just me. Let's see. History begins with our own memory. I don't know what that has to do with this. You'll have to help me out here. I'm stupid too, remember. I can't follow things very well. Gabriel Galawa? I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but she said that the reason we enter any relationship, it's for what we get out of it. Yeah, including her marriage. She was a wise woman. So in general, those of you watching this right now, live, do you agree? Is that true? Maybe not. I don't know. I think it's true. I think that sums it up. That's exactly it. We get into a relationship and we want love for ourselves. Love feels good. It feels good to love other people too. That's why we do it. I haven't figured out the part about why that's helpful. Why it's helpful to understand that. I think it is. I think it's better to understand that it is a selfish act. There's something so usually you learn so wrong. Like, don't be selfish. Be selfless. But in being selfless, in the end, we're being selfish. I just think maybe a reframing of that word. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but those of you who are smarter than me can figure this out. I was just curious to know if people agreed or not. And if you're watching this or listening to this on podcast, well, here's what you can do. You can go to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. I post pretty regularly on those platforms, and you can communicate with me that way because I'd like to know what your thoughts are also. I do have a Facebook also, Suburban Pilgrims. Suburban Pilgrims for all of those, by the way. Selfless acts are feeding the good wolf. Interesting. Yeah, I can think of that one for a while. Seems like a good time to do that while you're live streaming, recording a podcast is just to think about something. Anyways, I have 10 minutes left before I am going to finish this. So let me get into the last little bit. Well, two more parts. I want to go through this book. Now, I do want to, I bring up this book all the time. It's not the greatest book in the world. It's actually, I'm sorry, Sean Whalen. Is that how you say it? Whalen, those of you who know. It's not a very well-written book. But at the same time, I love it because it's not well written. I totally recommend it for any guy out there. Women too. It's made for men for the most part. I think no, not necessarily. But I got so much out of this book. It's super short read, straight to the point. This chapter is called Business, but it's helpful. I'm just going to read some of the highlights. You can see I scratched the heck out of this page. I just circled things and underlined, that's the word, different things. So I want to do a little segment on the podcast every week where I just take segments of books that I've read, sections of those books that were impactful to me, and just read them to you. And then we can chat through them a little bit. I'll spend like 5 minutes on this. And I'm going to end with just some chit chat with you because I just want to talk to you, just you. All right. So I didn't go through this beforehand. I knew this chapter. So I'm just literally going through and reading my highlighted sections, see what we can get out of it. And also, I want to chat a little bit about what, if anything, I've actually applied and tried and let you know how that worked. One of the things he said at the top of the book was quit stinking coughing. He said, make money every day, get paid every single day. And I read that and I thought, yes, brilliant. I want to figure out how to do that. I'm still working on it, but maybe you'll get some insight from this book, as I did, to kind of help you get there. He said, a wise man and dear friend told me something that I will never forget. Money is freedom. Oh, man. Boy, let me just stop there because that is true. I had growing up, as many people did, especially if you grew up in the church world, kind of the Christian world, there's a little snippet in the Bible that says, people quote it as saying money is the root of all evil. And so a lot of people run with that scripture as like, yeah, money's bad. The desire for money is bad. What the scripture says is, and this isn't a preachy thing, but the scripture actually says the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money is the root of all evil. But growing up, I did have this kind of mindset that money is bad. Trying to go after money, trying to be rich just to become rich is bad. And my perspective on money has changed so much because I have realized that the more money you make, it truly does buy you freedom. It also allows you to, this kind of goes into what we just talked about, but it actually allows you to make an impact on other people's lives. you can take that the wrong way. I don't mean to say that you can't make an impact unless you have money. Totally not what I mean. So many people have changed people's lives. You don't have to have money to do that. But I think I do think that having money and pursuing more money, I guess is really what it is. The pursuit of more money isn't a bad thing. It is a negative thing. You can do a lot with it. You can somebody who has a lot of money, who is a great person, like somebody who does good with no money, I think you could argue could do more good with more money. Does that make sense? I think that's true. So I thought that was important for me because I've always had this issue with money. Like it's bad to go after. Why? Who cares about money? Money's stupid, and that's changed for me a lot. I still don't have much of it. I'm working on trying to get more, but I do think that the more money you have, the more opportunities you have to do the things that matter to you. And if some of the things that matter to you involve helping other people in some way, you can do more of that with more money. I don't think you can argue that. Somebody with more money has the opportunity, the resources to do a lot more. Again, doesn't mean that you can't do a lot of good without it. It just, I mean, I think it's pretty realistic. So that was maybe I'm so curious to know what you guys think. Let me know. But okay, moving on. That alone though was helpful. Just a different framing. I think it's very true. Okay, I agree with that. Oh, I agree with that because I've been broke and being broke is being trapped. I agree with that too. Yeah, I mean, dang, I could have talked the whole podcast about this. It's just so stinking true. There's so little you can do. If you, I'm going to move on. I can keep going. People have tried to reason and argue with me on this for years, but the simple fact is without adequate financial resources, you are extremely limited in life. It does not mean that you can't be happy, but without having money, you cannot have the freedom to do as you choose. Dang. Tell me that's not true. And if you don't think it's true, let me know why. I'd be curious to know. You can comment on this video later. Is everything working still? I feel like, man, I could just keep going on this. Okay, let's keep going here. I'll just read a little bit more because I want to finish up with just chatting with you. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you are half-assing your body and your relationships, I'd be willing to bet you are not in a financial place of abundance, or at least not as abundant as you could be or want to be. Oh man, I can keep going. You can see, I think this book's really good. I think it's true though, in general. Man, again, I could keep talking on this all day, but I think part of the thing that I've realized is me trying to become the man that I want to be is providing for my family and for as I want to impact. I want to make it, man, this is the stages I think I'm kind of veering off course here, I realize, but as I've pursued trying to be bettering myself, becoming the man I want to be, I've realized that happens in stages. And the first stage is bettering yourself. You can't make your family's life better if you're not better. If you're fat and lazy, you're not going to make your family better. Your family's usually going to follow their parents. The kids are going to follow the parents, and the father should lead their family. And if you as the father are slacking off in some of these areas like I have, you're not going to make your family better. And so for me, eventually, if I want to change other people, impact other people, it starts with myself. It starts with myself, then it moves with my family, and then it moves out from there. And this area has been a big area that I've been trying to work on as well. The financial area. That's not the point of this podcast. I just picked that at random for this book, but I think I feel I should have started this a long time ago because now I'm ending the podcast and I just started a topic that I like to go into further. So next week I'll pick it up again, talk a little bit more if you like. I'd love your thoughts though. If you think differently about this, I would love for you to put it in the comments, and I will read comments next week on this podcast, this live stream, and we can chat about it. I think it'd be interesting. For now, I'm going to read some comments. Let's go through here. Let's see what people are saying here. I do enjoy being helpful, said Jeremiah Hunter. That's because you're selfish, Jeremiah. You're so selfish. Gabriel Galloway. That's how you say it. Galloway, isn't it? I just figured it out. It's called FU money for a reason. That's probably true. Igor the Terrible said, but don't you need to know who you are first? What you have become. It was not your design. Oh, what? Oh, that's somebody else. Sorry. I'm getting confused with the comments here. But Igor the Terrible, I apologize that I'm butchering your comment, I think, here. But don't you need to know who you are first? First before what? Which part? I'm sorry. The financial part or just becoming a better man in general? What you have become was not your design. Oh, okay. You're talking to me. I think, yeah, probably. I don't know. You know what's interesting? I think I think that in general, we can choose to some degree the person we are, the person we become. You know what I mean? Not to some degree. We absolutely can. 100%. Boy, another good book you should read if you haven't read it is The Four Agreements. Oh, that book is so stinging impactful and talks about this. The person we become today is almost 100% because of the time we grew up, the time we were raised in, just the day and age, the date, the place, our parents, the world we were shown, the relationships we've had, like all of those things at an early age really dictate the person you are today. And that man, I could talk forever about this. This is so interesting to me. This is such a passionate area of mine, but I do think it's very true. That doesn't mean that you can't change the person you are for good or for evil. I mean, there's some people who are raised such good kids, came from good family. I could never see them doing what they did. You know, those kinds of stories happen. And you see the opposite. You see people who came from very difficult homes. They were just terrible kids, but they changed. Something changed in them. So I think you can absolutely change if you know who you want to become. I think it's more important to understand who you want to become than it is to understand who you are, because who you are can be changed. I think to some degree. Anyways, that's about time. Last comment I'll read. It says generations are trapped in own their time. Man, I'm reading bad. In 1800, a man would not think as a young man today. Absolutely. Absolutely true. But it doesn't mean we can't learn from the men who came before us. And if there's qualities that we wish we had in ourselves, we can bring those into our lives today. So I think we can use that as an excuse. A lot of people do, like, well, it's just the times we live in. It's just the person I am. I can't change who I am. That's a bunch of bull. You can absolutely change who you are. It just takes a lot of work. Most people are way too lazy to change who they are. And they just get old and lazy and fat, and they don't care enough. They don't care about themselves. They don't have enough self-respect to change who they are. It takes a ton of work, ton of time, but I believe it's worth it if you know who you want to become. Anyways, that's it for this podcast. First one. I'm going to do another one next week and every week after. I mean, that's the plan anyways. If you like this podcast, I'm trying to shift my mind from YouTube, which is what I'm used to podcasts, and realize that people are going to be listening to this. So if you're listening to this, the biggest thing you can do is give it a comment, a review, or whatever the platform you're watching this on will probably let you give it like a star review or something. That's the best way. And share it with people. Share it on social media. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, thumbs it up, all those things YouTube wants you to do. Subscribe to the channel, won't you? Do you enjoy this? If you did, let me know. Make me feel good about myself. That's really, it's selfish, and we need to understand we're all selfish. That's it. Thanks for watching or listening. I'm gonna have a new video out tomorrow, by the way. New video out on the channel, YouTube, Suburban Pilgrims. That's it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.